Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Reverend Lisa is limping. She's going to help me on stage. Well, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, Happy birthday, and any other happies I've not missed. Hanukkah. Glad to be here today and see all of your smiling faces. As one writer said, this is the day that the Lord has made for all of us. And this is our time to rejoice and to be glad therein. Yes. We're at the end of 2019, but also, even more importantly, we are at the end of the decade. This entire decade has now been spent, and we're about to enter into a brand new period, a brand new time. And as we enter into a new time, it gives us an opportunity to assess the old and to ask ourselves, how have I progressed? How have I moved forward? And especially those of us that tend to enrich ourselves in spiritual principles, whether it's at this church or any other church. How have you grown? You know, oftentimes we go and we're just another number in a sanctuary. But I would like to think that we've come today because we're seeking more empowerment. We came that we might further our understanding, and that in doing so, as we leave this moment and go to the next, we go enriched. We go with further knowledge of that which we are. To understand that we are filled with the glory and the goodness of God. Its life is our life, and therefore its power is the power that we use. And it is so fluid that we are able to speak something so powerful and expect that word to manifest so magnificently in our experiences. You know, we have a great topic this month, born again, and these words that I'm expressing should be nothing new to those of us who absolutely understand what that born again experience is all about. That we are, in fact, the witnesses of that kind of experience. And I'd like to begin because the master teacher, Jesus, when he began to share this idea, he laid down the law first and foremost by saying that first seek ye the kingdom of God and all of its righteousness, and everything else then will be added unto you. So there was a condition there. We had to do something, and that was to understand what it was that we were in search of. We were seeking the kingdom of God, one, to enrich ourselves, but to also to understand our own spiritual nature a whole lot better. But in that search, a lot of us tend to get a little confused because we think of the kingdom of God as a physical place somewhere. Someone might say, well, that's a place where God is living in. It's an idea of empowerment, which is what we are speaking of. And this kingdom is not a physical place. It's not a place that we arrive to after we depart our earthly experience. But rather we need to understand that it is the realm of the absolute. There is a place of absolute power. There is a place where the absolute divine presence exists, and it's a place where we exist. It's a level of consciousness that we all strive to obtain. And that's why the master said, seek it first. In other words, get empowered first. And after you become empowered, then everything else that you are seeking in your life experience finds its way to you. There's no need to struggle. There's no need to be involved in strife. It's about being open and receptive to the goodness that is inherently yours. So if we begin our search in finding that place, finding that realm of the absolute, and then enter into that, when we enter into it by the expansion of our understanding. But in the teaching of this, and the understanding that we're going to this place where we can obtain these sacred and spiritual gifts, the teacher let us know that that journey is conditional. that we need to seek the kingdom of God, but there's a condition that's attached to it. And the conditions, he put it this way: verily, verily, I say unto you, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. One thing to go and search for, but what happens if you cannot find it? If you're standing in the midst of it and you cannot even see it, you're not even aware of where it is that you are, then how has that journey benefited you? And oftentimes, a lot of us need to ask ourselves that when we are part of the church experience. We are ending a decade, and a lot of us have been at church every single Sunday and not have grown. That's a travesty. To come to a place and have principles shared with you, to come to a place where you're in constant prayer and meditation, to come to a place where inspiration is being fed and not be empowered, to leave out the same way that you came in. That speaks to us being unconscious in church. It speaks to us being unconscious as a part of the worship experience. How can we go in search of something when we're not conscious of what it is we're trying to find? So he made that condition, and then he says a second one. And that is, it requires an elevated consciousness in order to enter in. And he goes, verily, verily, I say unto you, except a man be born of the water and of the Spirit, then he cannot enter into the kingdom. First, there was a condition about even seeing it. And then secondly, unless you have obtained birth by water and by Spirit, even after you saw it, you might not be able to enter in. How about that? What's that say about us and this search that we find ourselves on? But he gives us hope. He said, that which is born of flesh is flesh. But that which is born of the Spirit in the name of Jesus is spirit. Here we are in a spiritual center. And maybe you didn't realize that that's where you are, but you are in a spiritual center. Hallelujah. Most of us claim that we are spiritual beings. And we've heard that I'm a spiritual being, albeit having a human experience. That's just a cliche that folks say. I wonder if they believe it. What does it mean to be spiritual yet having a physical experience, a human experience, when the human is dominating the spiritual? Maybe we got it wrong. We say, I'm human having a spiritual experience, maybe. But what does it mean for us to be spiritual? It means that on some level, some way, we hear and we speak and we observe and we absorb and we operate on a level higher than that which is seen. So often we are victimized by this, that if we can't touch it, I don't believe it. If I can't see it with my physical eye, I don't believe it. And if I'm not involved in it with my physical self, I don't believe it. But that's for some of us. And then there are others who have reached a higher level of understanding and they operate on a totally different place of consciousness where they see beyond the moment. They see beyond the appearance. They hear beyond the obvious. They're operating on another level and another playing field. And we have to ask ourselves, where are we operating at? What good does it do us to come to church all the time and then to leave without any sense of empowerment? Just sort of examine your experiences for a moment and just look at where you are and how you treat other people. Think of this for a moment. We are living right now in an extraordinary time. I mean, an absolutely extraordinary time. We're constantly hearing about all the advances in technology. You know, for instance, you can talk to something this size and it will turn on the lights and start the car up. It'll do everything except open the door. But that's next year. This year, this is what it's doing right now. And it's gotten to that point. And that's just an example of all the different kinds of cars are driving by themselves and parking by themselves. You can just sit there and just enjoy the ride. This is the level of technology that we are witnessing right now. There are many, many advances that are going on in medicine, new procedures, and the way doctors begin to operate, and the things that they do, and the tools that they use. We are living in this incredible period where the genius of God is being sent forth into the minds of men. Mankind, everyone that is open and receptive, now this genius of the divine is pouring itself into them and empowering them. But it's empowering the ones that are receptive. And that's what we're marveling at. At least look at all these different folk that are inventing things and creating different technologies and making all these great discoveries. And we marvel at their inventiveness, as opposed to pausing and thinking for ourselves, look at the genius of God in that individual. And since God has no respecter of persons, and that is that he'll give it to all of us, and where is mine? When have you sat still and opened yourself up to receive that which is yours? You know, we're looking at unprecedented wealth right now. The stock market is at all kinds of record highs. There are more millionaires and billionaires now that we're seeing now than ever before. Wealth is everywhere. And even though we're seeing wealth everywhere, we're seeing folks that are not wealthy everywhere. And some of that is their cause, and some of it is caused by others. But today we want to focus on you. Just those of us that are here. Are you receiving yours? And if not, why not? Whether it is your portion of wealth, whether it's your portion of the knowledge of technology, whether it's just to move forward from where you are to the place that you want to go. Why is there no movement? You've been sitting here now for the last decade listening to principle being taught. You've been coming in here praying, affirming, listening, absorbing. At what point do you receive it and then act as though it is the truth? When does your level of demonstration begin to escalate? And you begin to become reflective of the thing that you claim that you believe? And underline that word. You claim that you believe. What would happen if we would act as though? This is really an incredible time for those of you who are creative. The creative spirit of God is just flowing so magnificently. And you know, creative people have always been those individuals who oftentimes have operated on a whole different level. They've received inspiration from a place that we don't necessarily recognize, but they've been receiving it for some time now, but this is their time. And when we see artists that are struggling now, it's because they've not opened up.
Yes, sir.
We're judging or making judgment by appearances and not by what is real. What if we settle ourselves down and begin to act as though? When was the last time that you have heard you? It's the last time you heard you. And I'm not talking about the you that you were talking with and listening to on your way in here. The person that you were talking with, you could hear yourself talking. I'm not talking about what you heard when you were on the phone. But when have you listened to the real you? that part of you that is sacred, that part of you that is in the core of yourself, that part of you that speaks out of the silence of yourself, that part of you that gives you direction, that part of you that lifts up your understanding, that part of you that causes you to become empowered. When have you listened to that voice? And see, so often we have not, because we have problems with the silence. We don't like to be still and have no noise going on at all. We like to talk, but we don't like to listen. And even as I am speaking, something from the core of yourself is speaking to you. And it's speaking at the level of your understanding, the level of your belief, and the level of your acceptance. But speak, it does. And all the time. And always. Oftentimes we've heard, and you say, no, my first mind. Let's reach back there and find that mind again. And listen to it. And allow it to guide, allow it to direct, allow it to point us where it is that we need to go. I have some questions that I'd like to throw out for you to ask yourself. And it sort of gives you an idea about where you are in this whole scheme of things with regard to being reborn, understanding your spiritual nature. I want you to listen to this. Have you been one of those who have allowed so much sacred time to get away while you wallowed in the inability to forgive? Lost so much time while you were concentrating on not forgiving. The world was continuing to evolve. While you were concentrating so much on not to forgive, your good was escaping because you were using that mind capacity erroneously, rather than if you had just forgiven and moved on. You've been able to focus on much more productive kinds of things. But you cut yourself short, because for some of us, we just find it a good time just to wallow in pity and not to forgive somebody, to hold something against someone, as opposed to thinking that this is an unnecessary weight on me. What if I just let it go? Because if I let that go, I'm freeing up capacity to love just a little bit more. Just by letting go, I'm freeing up the ability to heal just a little bit more. By letting this thing of unforgiving someone just to hold me captive, let it go. Are you still in search of a word you can believe in, which will become a catalyst to stop judging according to appearances? Have you found the word? A word of power, a word that resonates with you, a word that pushes you from this moment into the next, a word that lifts you up when you are feeling down and depressed, a word that reminds you of the reality of who and what you are. Have you found that word? If not, are you in search of that word? And you're focusing that this is my search. This is the thing that I need to find, because in finding it, I enter into a place that I claim that I want to go. Are you looking for the word that can make you believe in the words that you speak? Have you finally reached the moment where your faith is real and your belief is motivating? You know, we talk about our faith, we claim to have belief, but is it real and does it motivate you? Have you reached a place of clarity where you truly understand that you are that place where God goes forth as that which you are? Can you understand that? then you are that place. That God goes forth in your world as that which you are. Whether it's here today, work tomorrow, at home, wherever, you are that place, because what is within you is the Spirit of God. It is your life. You live, move, and have your being in it. It uses you as an instrument of its own divinity. And as you stand, its glory operates through you. But you need to kind of understand that. And understand that, you need to kind of accept that. If we can answer those questions will then begin to give you an indicator of whether or not you have been born again. We've heard the term so many times. You've heard it in the old church, we hear it in the new church, we hear it time in and time out. But it's like so many other things we hear. They mean nothing until you give them meaning. That's right. They're just words that are just floating out there. But it's the meaning that you give the word that determines its impact into your circumstance and on your life. Have you been born again? Have you been born of the Spirit? Now, if we were to sit around and quiz, everyone would say, oh yes, oh yeah. I definitely have been. Because I'm a spiritual being, and yes, everything is yes. Until someone does something, then you can't let it go because you won't want to forgive them. Until it becomes time to release more love. Until it comes time to lift someone else up. Until it comes time for you to generate the wealth that you said that you need in order to live the life that you claim that you've envisioned. All of these things reside within you. If you notice that, everything begins and ends within each of us. And it's what we do, and what's been given unto us that determines where it is that we're going to go. Imagine being given all of this power and ability and doing nothing with it. Not because the universe wants to withhold from us. It's not because God picks and chooses. It's because some days we want to believe and other days we just don't care. That's the truth of it all. Some moments we are right on, and other moments we are just totally unconscious. It's like whatever happens is what happens. And then all of a sudden, we are challenged with something awesome, something just absolutely terrible. We have this challenge. And then we're retreating, we don't know what to do. We're just running and bouncing against walls and just getting nowhere, as opposed to quieting oneself and then really listening and understanding that this has no power other than that which I give. God has empowered me to give power to the circumstances in my existence. And I choose not to empower this one. I choose to empower that one. I choose to empower life. I choose to empower the divine authority that I have. I choose to empower my faith. I choose to empower my belief. I choose to empower my understanding. These are the things that I choose to empower. These other things, I decide to take power away from them. And see, you will consciously say that to a situation when you believe that you have that ability. As long as we believe that we do not, we will not. And that's what causes us to feel like we are helpless. And oftentimes, as though we are abandoned by God, and nothing can be further from the truth. As we breathe, God is breathing through us. Imagine that. As you breathe, God is breathing through you. What happens if you say to yourself, I'm going to direct the breath. I'm going to send this where I need it the most in my life. There's some things that are maybe not to the way we would like them to be, but what happens if we speak to that situation as someone with power and know that we have the ability to alter it all? You don't know because you haven't tried it. But you will come in and you will sit and you will listen and you will stand and you will clap and you say that you had a good time, but then leave out empty. What good does that do?
Amen.
What good does that do? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of its righteousness, then everything else will be added unto you. Understanding is a part of that everything else. Ability is a part of that everything else. Willingness is a part of that everything else. Know-how is a part of that everything else, but it's conditioned that I had to seek out something first, and then that was further conditioned that I need to be born again in order to see it, the thing that I was seeking out. But when it all comes together, and I am very clear that spirit is that which is residing within me, it is that which is guiding me, it is that which is directing me, and I'm acknowledging it all. I can see clearly then. I can enter in without obstruction. Then I know exactly where I am. Paul, in one of the letters he sent to the Corinthians, he brings even much more clarity to this, and he says this: those who are unspiritual do not receive the gifts of God's Spirit, for they are unable to understand them, for they are spiritually discerned. That's how so much maybe gets away from us, so we don't quite understand it. And that should be part of the experience when we come to a moment like this, that we're trying to further our clarity. We want to understand more. We want to be able to discern these spiritual gifts that have been so freely released into our understanding, and to use them so that we will bless ourselves so abundantly. See, this is the whole notion of being born again. For someone, it may sound like some craziness because they see birth only as a physical meaning. They cannot begin to think of birth in terms of it being a metaphor. And that's what this new birth is all about. I have a word I'd like to share with you. I'm going to say it, I'm going to ask you to repeat it after me. I want you to listen to what we're saying. Today I place my confidence.
Today I place my confidence
In the invisible hand of the all-sustaining good.
in the invisible hand of the all-sustaining good.
And I let the miracle of life
And I let the miracle of life
and love
and love take place.
Now, pause for a moment. I want you to reflect on what it is that you just said. Absorb it. I'm going to say it again, and this time I don't want you to just listen to me. Today, I place my confidence in the invisible hand of the all-sustaining good, and I let the miracle of life and love take place. So you're just letting it go. You're placing your hand with confidence in the hand of the Spirit. And when you place it there with confidence, you allow yourself to be led, guided, and directed. Without tugging, without pulling back, without resisting. You just allow yourself to just flow. Because you're allowing life and love to guide you. We go on. I'll say it again, and you repeat after me. I release every doubt and fear. I declare every good I possess becomes multiplied as divine love acts upon my faith to bring into my experience everything necessary for my well-being. Pause once again. Reflect on this word. that you are releasing into the mind. And think about what it is that you're saying. That you're releasing every doubt and every fear. Known or unknown, you're letting them go. Because they have crowded into your mind, and you want to release that crowd out of your mind. And then you make a declaration. And this is where your tool of power is being used. And you're saying that every good thing I possess is being multiplied. Now imagine that, feeling that, sensing that, and accepting that. Every good thing that you have is being multiplied. And that divine love is acting upon your faith. You go on. I'll read, and you affirm after me. I affirm every good thing.
I affirm every good thing.
I do shall prosper.
I do shall prosper.
Every person I meet.
Every person I meet.
Shall be blessed.
Shall be blessed.
And every situation I touch.
Every situation I touch.
Shall be helped.
Shall be helped.
This word I speak.
This word I speak.
Will not fail.
Will not fail.
Nor return unto me void.
Nor return unto me void.
It is done.
It is done.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Let's pause once again. Breathe. And reflect. You affirm that every good thing that you do will prosper. And every person you meet will be blessed. Just think on that part for a moment. And look around. Look around the center. Look around and see all the folk that you are blessing right now. And then you say, every situation that you touch shall be helped. No longer feeling that, that you're helpless, and if I could, I would assist them, but I'm this, that. No, forget all of that. And start sensing your empowerment. That you have the ability to achieve things. You have the ability to demonstrate things. Also, more importantly, you have the ability to be a light for someone else. And that light needs to become a lot more brilliant. Because so many folk are walking in darkness and don't even know it. But you are the light. You come here to charge that spiritual battery. And once that battery is charged, you should leave out of this door motivated. Motivated that as you walk through dark places, you cause those places to become illuminated. That you walk into situations where the Spirit, the presence, and the power of God is revealed as never before. Stop living in the past. We're coming out of the old decade. We're entering into a new one. That means new opportunities await us. But if we still move into the new, clinging on to the past, we go forward into our future with an anchor tied on our faith. It's time that we release all of that. Allow the Spirit to lead, guide, and direct us into a higher good. We've had our spiritual baptism. We've been born anew. We have an expanded consciousness. Our understanding has been heightened. Our faith has grown wider. And our belief has been lifted to a higher place. Truly, when we say that this is the day that God has made for me, I'm going to rejoice in it because I have something to rejoice about. That should be our attitude. We got something to rejoice about. We should leave out of here today dancing because we have something to rejoice about. Ready to embrace even greater good. As one writer said, eyes have not seen nor ears heard, nor has it been revealed into the hearts and the minds of men everywhere. The good that God has in store for them that love Him. You not even imagine the good that you have the ability to create in your circumstance. So you should go out of here and say, my imagination expands, because that's where your creative juices begin to operate. Everything begins in your imagination. When you see it and you begin to act as though it's real, it becomes real. Your word is the law unto where it is sent, and we need to understand that. That we'll move into this new time, into this new decade, filled with greater power, enriched with greater love, anointed with greater understanding, and filled with even greater faith. That should be our charge. Let's go out of here and seize on the good that is rightfully ours. Peace and blessings to you.